Friends, you can find our written report in Appendix A of documents in advance. You don't necessarily need it now, but it's worth a read. Those of you who've been reading Quaker Faith and Practice recently might have noticed a paragraph about the history of our yearly meeting, from which we learn that it is 1668 that is traditionally chosen as the date of establishment of what was then London Yearly Meeting. So the sequence of annual yearly meetings has been unbroken for 350 years this year. We're not making too much of it, it's just a date. But as we start this yearly meeting, I'm particularly conscious of our place in both our history and our future, as a church which seeks continuously to be open to new light in today's changing world. And whilst we're on history, friends, it was in 1918, 100 years ago. 1918 was by all accounts an excellent yearly meeting. In 1918, the yearly meeting clerks were called away to account to the censor, and the yearly meeting was for the first time clerked by a woman. I think we are now perfectly accustomed to being clerked by women, but we are examining, and we need to examine, how we can tackle other issues of diversity and privilege, and how we can engage a wider range of voices in meaningful decision-making. Agenda Committee felt it right to dedicate the majority of the time on this agenda to different aspects of the question of whether it is right to revise Quaker Faith and Practice at this time. And tomorrow I'll talk much more about the thinking behind those sessions as part of the introduction to that question. So tonight there are three other things that I'd like to bring to your attention. In our written report, we've set out the cycle of Agenda Committee's work, and it's a classic cycle of planning, doing and reviewing. And it's the reviewing part I want to highlight, using our past experience to shape the future. And your feedback, friends, from yearly meeting gathering last year was very valuable, and some valiant friends read every single response, and it will feed into both the next gathering in 2020 as well as into this yearly meeting. An example of where feedback has helped shape this yearly meeting is the community hub in the Waldo Williams room, which builds on what's worked well to help bring people together. And a further example is the changes we've been making to communications and to documents. We're trying to minimise the number of pieces of paper you need on your lap at any one time. On Monday, we hope to take inspiration from examples of work on diversity and on sustainability. They're both matters we know we will need to come back to as a yearly meeting. In looking ahead to 2019 and 2020, we are challenged to meet and to make radical change, which is exciting and dynamic. Where are we challenged to be radical in our witness in the world? Where do we need to put our own house in order? How will we follow up our urgent concerns? How will we communicate our distinctive voice and what we are already doing? We hope this session will give us both inspiration and food for thought that we will return to at future yearly meetings. And finally, you'll see in the report that we think the time may be coming to look again at the purpose and function of yearly meeting. And at this stage, I'm just flagging that as a question for the future. Thank you for your support and your encouragement, friends.